welcome back to my channel. For those who don't know me, my name is Katharine, and in today's video, I'm going to be talking about my July reading wrap-up. So please excuse me if I'm a little bit off. I actually just got into a car accident a few days ago and I had to get surgery, so I am not feeling my best right now, but I wanted to come on here in hopes that it would make me feel better just to do something, and also just talk about the books that I read in the month of July. So I'm just gonna get into this. Hopefully you guys enjoy this video and learn more about the books I read in July. So let's get into this. I only read 3 books in the month of July. First of all, it's the summer, so I feel like I'm a lot more busier than usual. I don't have like as much time to like just sit down and read. I've been doing a lot of audiobooks while I'm working, so that's definitely helped a lot. So I only read 3 books this month, or not this month, in July. I read 3 books in July is what I'm trying to say. So let's just get into this. The first book that I read was The Screwtape Letters by C.S. Lewis. I was really looking forward to this book because I've read a couple C.S. Lewis books before, but I found them really like clinical and sterile, and I didn't really enjoy them all that much. I gave this one 3 stars. Not that it was bad and not that it was like absolutely mind-blowing. It was just kind of average for me. Like I mentioned before, I've read a few other C.S. Lewis books in the past, and they were also very average to me. Not that they were amazing and not that they were like absolutely terrible, but I also just didn't find those books either to be super like mind-blowing. And I also just didn't find them like bad either. I don't know. I have a love-hate relationship with C.S. Lewis. I know he's like very profound in like the Christian community as like a very well-known author and just like apologetics type person, and he is very smart. I can tell that he's very smart. I think he taught at like some university in England, I believe Oxford, but I am learning that I'm probably just not a fan of his books. I was really having high hopes for this one because I heard that this was written a little bit differently than his other books, and it's true. Like after reading this, like I can see why people like this book so much, because it's basically told in the perspective of like a higher demon like writing letters to like a lower demon, if that makes sense. If not, it's like Satan writing to one of his demons, something to that extent. So it's almost like in a, what's that word? There's a specific word for like letters being in books. Oh, epistolary. It was in like an epistolary format, so I definitely enjoyed that. I did listen to this on audio, so it made it a little bit more engaging. But I just, like I mentioned before, I just find that C.S. Lewis's writing style is a little bit more like clinical and sterile, and almost like I'm reading a textbook. So I just wasn't a big fan of this book by him either. I know so many people love his books, so please don't take this as like a personal attack if I am not liking a lot of C.S. Lewis's books. I just kind of find them mid or average. I don't think that like I won't recommend these books to people. I definitely will recommend C.S. Lewis's writings to people, but I'll probably just preface to people that like you have to go in knowing how he writes, if that makes sense. Like if you like the more like intellectual type reads, C.S. Lewis's books are definitely for you, but just not for me. I'm hoping when I read his Narnia books that it's a little bit more up my alley. I still have the Narnia books on my shelves and I haven't read any of them. I watched the movies when I was a kid, so I'm hoping the books are just as good. So I'm hoping, like I mentioned before, that the Narnia books are better because they are technically fiction books and they're more like on the allegorical side of like Christian fiction, if that makes sense. So like, of course, like Aslan is supposed to represent Jesus Christ, and like the evil witch is supposed to represent Satan and all that. So I am looking forward to reading Narnia, but maybe just his like nonfiction type books are just not for me. So sorry, not sorry for giving this 3-star review to The Screwtape Letters by C.S. Lewis. And I basically gave every other C.S. Lewis book 3 stars as well. The next book that I read was The Curious Case of Benjamin Button and Other Jazz Age Stories. And I gave this, I believe, 4 stars. I really enjoyed the Curious Case of Benjamin Button section of this book. Just the other stories in this like weren't that engaging to me. I'm more familiar with the Curious Case of Benjamin Button story. Maybe that's why I felt more engaged with that than the other stories in this book. Because I've watched the movie for The Curious Case of Benjamin Button like years ago, and I just find that concept like really interesting. So for those who don't know like the storyline behind The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, it's basically like a baby essentially who's born like as an old man, and he like ages backwards, so by the time he dies he like is a legitimate baby, if that makes sense. I just found that like such a interesting concept, like especially for the time in which this is written. I think it was written in like the 20s or 30s by F. Scott Fitzgerald, and I just find that that concept for like a story is so beyond its time for when this was written, and it still stands true today. Like I think it still represents a very interesting like storyline, if that makes sense. And for those who don't know, I have like a goal that I'm setting for myself to read 1 nonfiction and 1 classic per month. So I counted the Screwtape Letters by C.S. Lewis as my nonfiction for the month of July, and I counted The Curious Case of Benjamin Button as my classic. So that's what I crossed out for my classic and nonfiction for the month of July. And then the very last book I read in July was The Tea Chest by Heidi Chivaroli. I think that's how you pronounce her name. And essentially what this book is about is 2 women, and they are both in separate timelines. So it's dual timeline, as you can imagine. And it is set in like today's modern time, following a girl named Haley. I forgot her name, so I apologize. I just had to look on the back of the book. But she is a lieutenant in the Navy, and she is going to like the Navy SEAL training, and she ends up trying to figure out what's behind like this tea chest that she found at the beach, while she's also training for the Navy SEAL training, if that makes sense. So basically like it follows her in modern time, and then it also follows this girl named Emma. And this, at this point in time when we're following Emma, it's in Boston 1773. So obviously during the Revolutionary War time period in the United States. And these 2 women are connected. Actually, I'm not going to give too much away, but just know that this tea chest connects them both. And there's some really interesting things that I learned from this book. I'm a big historical fiction person in general, so I really enjoyed this book. And I'm also from Massachusetts, so a lot of like the things that they were mentioning I was like very much aware of because I'm from the area. So they mentioned some cities and names and like different historical events that took place that like I actually knew about, which was really interesting. And I have like a particular interest in the Revolutionary War. Like if I had to pick a certain time in history that I like to learn about, it is the Revolutionary War in the United States. Of course, like I love all history, but like specifically I love learning about the Revolutionary War in the United States. So this was really cool to learn about because Emma, who is the girl that we follow in Boston in 1773, is obviously involved in like rebelling against the English. And that's all I really have to say about the book because I don't want to give too much away. It does follow these 2 women who are connected by this certain tea chest, hence why the title of the book is called The Tea Chest. So it's a really amazing book. I gave this, actually, I don't even think I told you what my rating was on this. I gave it 5 stars. It's definitely not a 6-star read, if you know what I mean. Like 6-star reads for me are like, goes way above and beyond, but it definitely is a solid read. I gave it 5 stars. I think it definitely kept me engaged. It definitely kept me interested. I really liked the character development, the plot development. I felt like the pacing was really good. I never felt like I was bored during this book, which is always a good thing. But if you're ever like a historical fiction person, please definitely give this a check out, if that makes sense. I don't even know if that makes sense. Just go check this book out if you're interested in at all in historical fiction. It also, I think, is considered Christian historical fiction, so they do mention God and Jesus and like trusting in the Lord and going to church and things like that. So you'll definitely get some like Christian aspects to this book as well, which is always a plus because I always like finding that kind of stuff in my books. But yeah, those are the 3 books that I read in the month of July. The 2 books that I did not end up getting to that were on my July TBR is Gone with the Whisker by Lori Cass, which from what I know for this book, it's technically like a cozy mystery about the 4th of July where a murder takes place during legitimately like the 4th of July. I don't know if I'm going to put this on my August TBR or to be read list because it is about the 4th of July and I do feel like I kind of missed my time frame to read this book, so maybe it will be on my July to be read list or TBR for next year. So hopefully I can keep this until next year when I can read it during the 4th of July season. And the next book that I did not get to was Peter and the Starcatchers by, I believe, David Barry. I think Dave Barry. I did not get to this. I started reading it. I think I got into the first like 5 chapters, but I didn't end up finishing it. So it's definitely going on my August TBR or to be read list. And this is essentially just a like middle grade like fairy tale retelling of Peter Pan. And I hope to get to this in the month of August. But yes, that is my July reading wrap up. I hope you enjoyed watching this, and I'm sorry again if I seem a little bit off. I'm still recovering from like being in a car accident and getting surgery and stuff like that because of the car accident. But I hope you enjoyed this video. Please give it a big thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!